Many homeowners are expressing real estate regrets.
A new survey finds that 62% of those with mortgages are worried about their renewals.
The odds of another interest rate hike went up today after the latest economic snapshot revealed inflation went up last month.
September 5th is just around the corner, and a lot of Canadians are holding their breath to help them make a decision as to what they should be doing when it comes to the real estate decisions. People are feeling nervous and they're asking one fundamental question: should I be going for a fixed rate mortgage or a variable rate? And we're going to talk about that right now. This is actually the first time in history where variable rate mortgages are higher than fixed rate mortgages. And I think that's because they're trying to push the majority of the population there. One might say, okay, they're trying to do this because they want the economy to become more stable. They want people to get steady bills, budget better. It is not that simple. So we're going to break things down here in a few categories so you can make a decision based on the information we can look at right here. So the things we're going to talk about today is the difference between a variable and fixed rate mortgage. We're going to talk about penalties because that is very important. What is the cheapest mortgage in the long term and the short term? We're also going to talk about who should choose what type of mortgage and what is generally more suitable depending on your life plan, as well as we're going to talk about terms and how they're going to affect you as time goes on. A variable rate will most of the time fluctuate and change as the market changes and as interest rates rise or go down, meaning that your mortgage may not necessarily be the same every month. Fixed rate mortgage is going to be the same payment for the amount of time as you select it for the term. If let's say you pick a mortgage rate for a fixed term at 4.5% interest and that comes out to $4,500 a month, it will stay about $4,500 a month for, let's say, 3 or 5 years, however long you select it. If you pick a variable rate mortgage, that same mortgage will probably look more along the lines of $5,000 or $5,200, and that number might change every couple of months. For every 0.25% that the Bank of Canada raises interest rates, that on a $700,000 mortgage is going to make a difference of approximately $100 every month. Now, let's talk about the next thing, which is penalties. The penalties is why I, as a real estate investor, always choose variable rate mortgages. If you go with, let's say, RBC, Scotiabank, you may look at the fixed rate and the variable rate and look at the fixed rate and say, hey, these guys have a pretty reasonable plan here for the fixed rate mortgage. Catch is in the penalty, and this is where you lose flexibility. If you go to Scotiabank and get a fixed rate mortgage and you decide to go for 3 to 5 years, you may find that the penalty to break the mortgage might be in the realm of $40,000 or so, and that is a pretty hefty penalty if you're breaking a mortgage of about $700,000. On a variable rate, you're going to be paying 3 months interest. We said that your mortgage payments are in and around the $5,000 mark. You may be looking at about $4,000 a month in interest. Multiply that by 3, you're looking at $10,000 to $15,000 in penalty if you have to break a mortgage. That is considerably better than any kind of savings that you might see in the difference that you might pay from a fixed rate mortgage to a variable rate. But just understand that if you need to change things up or sell the home or move or even refinance the whole property, that might cost you large if you're with a fixed rate. But variable will offer you the flexibility to refinance the property or sell the property at a much lower cost if that is something you see yourself needing to do. Now, which mortgage is going to be cheaper for you? Now, obviously, with the things that we discussed, we already established that on the monthly payment, the fixed rate mortgage is going to be cheaper. Variable is going to be more expensive on the monthly payments, but in any type of adjustment, it is going to be cheaper for the variable because you're not going to end up with such a hefty bill should you choose to break the mortgage, refinance, or do anything like that. Which means that if you're a real estate investor and you're doing the BRRRR strategy, or you're flipping a house, or you're only planning on staying in a property for 1 to 2 years, variable will be the cheaper option. Who should choose a variable or a fixed rate mortgage? I almost always say that you ought to be going for the variable rate mortgage. Now, if we look at things historically, you will see that variable rate mortgages have statistically outperformed fixed rate mortgages, and I still think that's going to happen. The best mortgage for somebody, whether it's variable or fixed, has to do with what allows them to sleep at night, which brings us to our next point, which is the terms. Now, the terms of the mortgage is where you see a lot of restriction. This is where some people are thinking, yeah, they want us to go in the long term because something is going to happen and then interest rates are going to just plummet and we're going to be stuck in these really long-term mortgages and have to pay huge penalties in order to break. And this is what people are afraid of, especially real estate investors, because we are in a time of change. Things are happening and we're trying to make sure to position ourselves accordingly so we can get out relatively unscathed or capitalize on matters and come out ahead. On September 5th, the Bank of Canada is going to make the announcement. I suggest you pay attention to that. And then we're going to have Ping make a video on what the decision-making process should be like for you based on the decisions that Bank of Canada makes. As always, if you found this video to be helpful, make sure to like us, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.